Welcome to the American University School of Communication LA Virtual Experience. This is our Notable Alumni Series, and I'm Sarah Menke-Fish, Assistant Dean of Experiential Learning. And our guests are Amber Glancy and Danielle Gelber. Danielle Gelber is the founder of her television production company, Acoustic Productions. The company has a first look deal with NBC Universal Television and is based at NBC Universal. Acoustic Productions has a mandate to create and produce scripted and non-scripted television series of all genres. Danielle Gelber was executive producer of NBC's Chicago Fire and is credited with developing multiple drama and comedy series, including the multi-Emmy nominated comedy Weeds. She was the creative executive in charge of all 6 seasons of The L Word. Gelber's list of development of award-winning shows goes on. The X-Files, Ally McBeal, Party of 5, Melrose Place, Beverly Hills 90210, Boston Public, Millennium, New York Undercover, Roswell, and Dark Angel, and the original pilot scripts for The Sopranos and Dawson's Creek. Gelber received a Bachelor of Arts degree in Political Science from the University of California, Santa Barbara, and a master's degree in International Relations and Communications from American University. Welcome, Danielle. Amber Glancy is an executive assistant, or is the executive assistant to Danielle Gelber. Under the mentorship of Danielle, Amber has actively absorbed the process of creating and selling a show, from conception of an idea to selecting a writer, to pitching to an array of studios, networks, streamers, to completing story areas and pilot draft orders. Most recently, Amber's culmination of knowledge and experience in television led her to co-produce a couple of projects under the Acoustic banner and oversee the development of pitches with the writers, creators, before taking them out to Netflix and other streamers. Please give a warm welcome to Danielle and Amber.
At this point, we are all still very much flying blind. I was talking to the president of Showtime, where I used to work for many years, the other day, and he was saying, we're not sure how to do this because we identify ourselves as premium cable, which means you can get, huge, incredible production value from crowd scenes and, intimate sexual encounters and all these things that allow them to say, well, you can't get this on free TV, on broadcast TV, but how do they do that now? How are you going to have a kissing scene? How are you going to, and so the writers are going to have to also start writing towards our physical circumstances. And then there's the whole notion creatively of when we do a show, whoever we is, are we acting like we're living in the time of COVID, or are we just ignoring that and having our nighttime soap show? You're also seeing a situation where people are tweeting constantly, I've finished Netflix, I'm done with Amazon, because they've just watched and binged through, I guess, everything. I don't know how that's possible, but people are really gobbling it, up. And so in that respect, it makes me feel like, well, there's totally an appetite for more and more programming. It's kind of an unending thing, which is hopeful for producers like me, like what Amber is trying to do, and, a lot of networks and stuff, because they are buying, they're hearing pitches. The problem with hearing pitches is it's this forum now. So imagine if I were trying to sell you my show, I need to write, but it's not like sitting in a room and really having a personal interaction for, a quality experience where people. You're kind of siloed off, and there's this like fake scrim that's in front of you and everybody else. And it's hard to have creative impact when you're doing that. We are all doing our best, including people on the receiving end as buyers. It's a whole new world for them too, as to how they hear stuff and evaluate. because like all of you guys are muted, they want to get rid of the ambient sound so it's not distracting, so they mute themselves. So if you're pitching a comedy, you see people laughing, but you're not hearing it. And people in a room feed off of that, and when you're in person. So there are a lot of restrictive impacts in that way. You'll notice a lot of the buys right now all have gigantic stars and celebrity auspices, whether behind the scenes or on camera. Because if I say, well, I've got this pitch and Julia Roberts is producing it with me and she's attached a star, then it suddenly comes to life for people, of course. If I take the same pitch and I don't say that, it just goes in the pile of, cool, good idea.
What do you see now? How can students and early career professionals prepare for the future in this industry?
The more technologically wired and capable you are and can be helpful to the people who are honestly a little bit more spoiled and used to having it done for them, the better. You just make yourself an asset in any way you can.
I would set a reminder in my calendar after I had an interview with someone to follow up every week if that's what they told me to do. I would ask before an interview, like, is it all right if I follow up with you on this? That did produce a result. The studio, Danielle's on with one of the executives at Universal Television, and they're in back-to-back Zooms all day long. So they still have notes calls and are developing projects. So if their day is nonstop work, they're not going to think like, oh, I actually need to get back to that intern to try to like secure that internship. It's tough because it also is an industry largely based on who you know and who can kind of help you get a foot in the door. Because my first in was the head of parking and security for the Universal lot. She helped me get my internship when she called my internship supervisor, and she was like, she's great. She's like, well, we're going to hire her, I think, but we have to meet more people. And she's like, don't take any more interviews and I'll give you a better parking spot. I feel like all the same interpersonal communication stays similar. You want to stay kind, stay focused, stay on top of things.
I have a question about when you get a first look deal with a network. I think for a lot of folks, that's like a dream come true. But can you talk about what are the challenges even after you earn a first look deal?
The idea of a first look, in case you don't know, just means that in exchange for a salary, like a holding fee of money for a specified amount of time that you negotiate, they get the opportunity to have the first look at any of your material. And honestly, a lot of networks want you to come unencumbered without a studio because they want to own all their product themselves. And if you walk in with a project with a studio, there's that whole negotiation and split ownership. The challenges are, they don't take as much of your stuff off the table for themselves as you would think. They pass on a lot of stuff. Really, it gives you a tiny proprietary window to try and sell them something so that they will go out with you to sell it. But if they don't, you got to look on the bright side and realize, well, I can go without them and do the same thing.
How plausible, how realistic is it if you have built like a following on social media? Is that enough leverage when you pitch to networks?
The best thing you could have is what's called IP, intellectual property, whether it's a book or a podcast that you do or your YouTube channel that is known for something specific, not just being an influencer. That's not really going to do anything. But if your channel is about something and then your project is keyed to that something, that's a very smart way if you can really quantify your following, because that gives people, everybody who's a buyer is trying to look for a way to leverage and platform and pole vault the idea into the public lexicon. And so if you can say, go look at her YouTube channel, she's known for this and it's amazing and there's only one of her, and you push the singularity of what you do, I think that's very smart.
And I don't know if there's also any performers in the group of you, but It is important, apparently, to have a social media following if you're looking for representation for management or an agent.
I guess I just want to know if working in news, if that sort of baggage of that career will have a help or hindrance to the pitch, you know, like, will I be taken seriously in this space?
Of course you will. I mean, you are going to bring to the room whatever your particular experience and expertise is and your passion. So don't ever think that just because you've been following a different career doesn't mean that it can have, you know, great value in, you know, if it's keyed to your project.
Do, you know, employers want to see your varied skill set, or are you just looking for specific things?
I'm not a typical hirer in that I do love to see the breadth of experience that people have, because I value all of it. I think everything you bring to the table is valuable, but I think despite that, you have to be very specific about what you want to do when you're interviewing, right? Because you don't want them to feel like you've got this desultory experience and it's like, well, is she remotely focused? I love that she has all this, but what are you here for? What are you in my office for? And so you can be broad on the page and very specific in the interview.
Danielle and Amber, is there anything we didn't ask that you wish we had today, or you think we should have, because we certainly need to know this right now?
In terms of how people can become valuable to the people that they're working for.
At the start of any job, it's a relationship that like hasn't built necessarily trust yet. You've been hired, you're working now, but you do have to, in a sense, no matter where you're going, because it is a business relationship, prove yourself in the sense like, I will show up on time, I'm going to provide what you need to operate, I do care, and I'm going to apply myself and make sure that you're taken care of too. So I think it's just coming in with a positive attitude from the top too, and just making sure that you're focused every day. And then you get to the point where you start to express your own interests. That's really key, is to make sure people know what you want to do and you want to learn also. People want to know what you want to do because they also do want to help. That's not always the case. Like having Danielle as a boss has been a very rare experience also. But there are people out there who you can cultivate that kind of working relationship with.
What Amber just said goes for pretty much everybody. I don't care if you're Dick Wolf and Jeffrey Katzenberg, or you guys who are trying to get your foot in the door. Everybody has the need to want their idea to be embraced. And we're all just human in that respect. I mean, Aaron Spelling used to get really upset if we'd go out and not sell something. And it's easy to go, why? You're richer than God. Who cares? But he cared, you know, because he cared, that's why he was where he was. Because you have to have that passion constantly stoking. And so just realize that even the people at networks and studios who seem like they have these big career positions or whatever, they too had to, you know, climb those ladders, and they're looking for the next opportunity or the next show, and they're worried about not selling it or making it. So in that respect, it's a great equalizer. Keep that in mind as you're going out there.
Oh, thanks so much, Danielle and Amber, for being our guests today on LA Virtual Experience. Coming up next week, Wednesday, June 3rd at 1:30 p.m. Eastern Time, Barry Josephson, president of Josephson Entertainment, will be our guest. Putting this series together is a team effort, thanks to Nada Malouf, Concept and Outreach to Alumni, Felicia Parks, SOC Career Center, Hannah Shows, Visual Design, Olivia Hugestrat, Alumni Emails, Tia Millage and Brianna Williams, Web Promotion, Matt Seklecki, Logistics Support, Rebecca Castaneda, Post-Production Editing, and our School of Communication Dean, Laura DeNardis, staff and faculty who champion innovation. We welcome your comments and suggestions for future guests and ways in which we can engage with you even further virtually with American University and the School of Communication. For LA Virtual Experiences Notable Alumni Series, I'm Sarah Menke-Fish.